So here in the Netherlands, if we need to go someplace, our first consideration is, do we take the bike? And the second consideration is, do we really want to take the bike? And the funny thing is that the reason our infrastructure is so good for biking these days is partly because of the 1973 oil crisis. And we currently find ourselves in a situation which is somewhat similar. It seems so the fuel prices have gotten a little bit ridiculous lately. I wanted to convert my new bike into something electric so I could go a little bit longer distances and of course not rely on fuel as much. Honestly, I don't know how I got around without these tools, but I highly recommend this kit. I'll actually leave a link to all of the stuff I used in this video in the description down below as well, so if you want to build this exact bike, you could do that. I don't recommend that though. I recommend spending some time and researching, seeing what the best options are for you. So the bottom bracket that I'm taking out over here is threaded, so we can always thread that back into place if we want to convert it back into a normal bike. And that's one of the benefits I've found with building your own e-bike instead of buying an e-bike. If you buy an e-bike, it often comes with a proprietary frame and a proprietary battery system, which means you can't really convert it back into something that doesn't necessarily need to be electric. Right, so this is the Tongsheng 1000 watt mid-drive motor. This one was actually upgraded by Varstrom, which is also the seller I got it from. It has a rated power of 1000 watts, so it's 48 volt. The controller is integrated in the motor. The assist type is torque sensing. It has a max torque of 160 Newton meters, which is quite frankly insane. The max speed depends on your gearing, of course, but you can hit roughly 40 to 60 kilometers an hour if you have the proper gears set up. And that brings us to the second big benefit of building your own e-bike, and that is price to performance. So in terms of specs, this bike will be outperforming most of the e-bikes and speed pedelecs that you can buy on the market right now. That doesn't mean it's a better bike, it just means that it has better specifications. But that's also very subjective, right? It depends on your riding style and what you actually want to get out of the bike. Now, I'll say that with this Rose Hobo, I managed to achieve pretty much what I wanted to, which is a really decent commuter. Quick reminder, if you enjoyed the video at any point, then leave a like, leave a comment and subscribe to the channel. Pretty much all of the stuff I needed to complete the bike was in the kit to convert it. All the cables are color coordinated, so you just plug them in and do some cable routing and essentially the bike will be ready to go. So here I'm installing the speedometer that actually connects to the screen, and on that screen you'll be able to adjust the assist level and also see the battery level alongside how much the motor is actually pulling from the battery at any given time. As I'll be using this bike to do longer distance commutes, I would also like a place to put my phone so I could put up the navigation. So I'm using my 3D scanner here, the Moon S1 from Creality, to 3D scan the handlebars and my phone, and that way I can import this into the CAD software, get a little bit more of an accurate representation of what it looks like. So it's very easy to model something out here. The reason I'm doing this in a custom method is because I'm not too happy with most of the phone mounts out there. Not saying that this phone mount is going to be any better, but I would like to do a project where I create a really decent phone mount for the iPhone. So for now we'll just call this thing prototype version 1. And once that was all modeled out, I sent it off to the 3D printer. Which also brings us to PCBWay, the sponsor of this video. PCBWay offers high-end manufacturing services like PCB production and assembly, CNC machining, sheet metal fabrication, injection molding, and of course also 3D printing. You can simply upload a file, get an instant quote for what something is going to cost, and then send it off to them to be manufactured. The nice thing about this is they manufacture stuff with far higher end machines than we're able to get access to, and you're able to print the materials that we normally wouldn't really have access to either. So that's really awesome. Special thanks to PCBWay for sponsoring this video. So this time around I 3D printed this in carbon fiber reinforced PLA, and the design is actually relying on the current case I have around my iPhone. I think it's a little bit too bulky, so I'm just going to bolt this onto the 3D printed component, and the case will be perma-mounted onto the bike. Now if you'd like access to the 3D scans or the design files, you can check out my Patreon page. I upload pretty much all the stuff I make over there. This next component is really quite important. This is the shift sensor, so this detects when you're actually shifting gears, and that way it cuts off the motor power just before the chain actually moves, and in that way it saves your cassette. If you don't have a shift sensor installed, you'll need to stop pedaling before you can actually shift, and then still it will sometimes snap and make a really horrifying noise and destroy your cassette in no time. So the Tubus Fly Evo, this is one of the most simple rear racks that I've found so far, and that's why I like it so much. That simplicity really makes the bike look a lot more easy and not that heavy in a sense. I also took this opportunity to modify the mudguards over here so they look a little cleaner. I drilled a hole into it so I can directly mount it onto the frame instead of having that little plastic piece in between there. So these mudguards don't come as a standard on the bike. These are the SKS Edge mudguards in 65mm. Now the rear rack came with a mount, but I didn't really like the look of it, and I didn't think it was too solid for the types of use cases I have in mind for this. So I got myself a piece of scrap metal, I cut that to size and then drilled 2 holes in each end. Then I made sure that the rear rack was level with the ground as we mounted it to that little metal plate. As I'll be putting some pretty heavy loads on this thing, this seemed a little bit more appropriate. As it comes to cable management, I don't really like using zip ties on bikes, it looks really ugly. For the back one I kind of had to, I couldn't really figure out a way to hide it. But for the cables that go to the steering wheel, I bought this U-profile and then attached that to the frame mounts, which is normally for holding a water bottle for example. And in that way it looks half decent when the cable is running up the frame. Now the Tongsheng mid-drive motor actually supports a 48 volt battery. This is a 52 volt at 20 amps, so that's quite powerful for a motor like this. I just wanted to ensure that I could get the max amount of performance out of this bike. Which also brings us to the final aspect of this entire build, which are the bike bags. They're pretty decent, they're pretty industry standard as well. They clip onto the rear rack, and that's also where I'll be hiding the battery. This part is of course personal preference, but I don't like the battery to be in the middle of the frame. I think it looks really ugly, and it also immediately indicates that that is an electric bike. Whereas the build that we did here today looks relatively normal until you look a little bit closer. And of course you'll be able to tell by how fast this thing is zooming past. So this thing is absolutely insane when you're actually riding it. It feels like an ultra lightweight speed pedalic. And I actually really enjoy it, my partner really enjoys it as well. She actually wants me to build a bike like this for her as well, so leave a like, leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see a build like that. So this particular build with the cassette that I have on there, it has a comfortable cruising speed of about 53 km per hour. If you pedal a little bit faster, you go 55 or 58. And the nice thing about the geometry of this frame is that it doesn't feel that sketchy when you're going that fast either. But this is just an extremely fun bike, and I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it gave you some inspiration, and hopefully see you in our next video.